Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Spring is here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parmesan delivered. A cabana? That's a no. But a banana? That's a yes. A nice tan? Sorry, nope. But a box fan? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra is giving you the chance to win tickets to the NBA Finals. That's right, the 2025 NBA Finals. Just head to michelobultra.com/NBA Finals. Michelob Ultra courtside NBA Finals sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents, excluding Maryland residents. 21 up. Begins at 9 a.m. EST on February 16, 2025. Ends on May 5th, 2025. See official rules at michelobultra.com/rules for price and details. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
This episode is brought to you by the Toyota Grand Highlander. Life's journey brings constant change, filled with exciting surprises and grand challenges. And with its spaciousness, power, and style, the Toyota Grand Highlander is more than a vehicle. It's your partner in embracing all life throws at you. From the spacious adult-sized third row to seating for up to 8 passengers, the Toyota Grand Highlander is up for every grand challenge. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Sunday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, I've got great news. Do you want to hear my great news? I got great news for you.
Yeah, let me hear the great news.
Okay, here's the great news for you, me, and Islanders Nation at large. This Islanders season only has 2 games left in it. That's the great news. Tuesday and Thursday, and then we are done. We are done with this. We hopefully, maybe with this iteration of the team, but we will be done with this season. We'll be done with the misery and just overall lack of importance and, I guess what are the other words, all the words on determination, scoring, all the words that we've been talking about all season. Frankly, I can't wait. I can't remember a time when I've been so excited for a season to end. Maybe it was a few years ago. I want to get back into that season a little bit, but I found myself really sort of sitting back this weekend and thinking, thank God there are only 2 games left in this season and we could all sort of resume our normal lives. What do you think? I mean, is that news great news for you, or is that a little depressing, or how do you feel about hearing that there's only 2 games left in the 2024-25 Islanders season?
Yeah, right now it's great, right? Like it's I'm ready for this season to be over, but it's a good reminder of how mundane and kind of boring and detached things become when a season is over before the season is actually over.
Yeah.
If you think about our podcast, where this is the 9th season we've done it. We are 300 and something episodes in to this podcast. We've got the spin-off podcast with 70 odd episodes or so. It's got the Patreon podcast. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of podcasts, and very few of them, when you kind of take a percentage of it, we've recorded very few from this situation, where we're in like the dead rubber part of a season. The season's over. The Islanders have been mathematically eliminated before the season has run out of runway. 21-22, it happened, I would say, maybe 3 weeks before this time. Not that they were mathematically eliminated, but they were all but mathematically eliminated. So whatever, that's like 3 episodes. This is 1. We'll do another one to recap, but it's really just 1. It's 4, and you could throw another. Maybe you could say 2 because last week, they were done anyway. So 5. That's 5. 2017-18. We were recording every other week at that point, so it's fewer just by that. And they, I don't know, they probably got bounced. What? We were probably recording dead rubber episodes from the trade deadline on, really. But at the same time, like that podcast had a very different feel to it because of the drama that was hanging over the team at the time. So out of like 360, 70, whatever episodes we're at right now, we've had like 7 or 8. This is like 7 or 8 where we've had this situation.
Right.
Now, if this podcast was around 5 years before it started, we'd be pros at this. We'd be like, oh yeah,
It's true.
Kick up your feet, get sign a bunch of defensemen, a 1-day tryouts. We'll never hear from them again. The Jamie Dornbushes of the world, Matt Campanelli. This is easy stuff, but that's not how it's been. And it sucks. Like it does suck as a sports fan. Like there's nothing worse than this weird purgatory where there are games being played, but they don't mean anything at all. It's basically another preseason, and you can't really glean anything from them. I don't like people are like, when like Utah Hockey Club's been out of it for a week or so, whatever it's been, and they'll be like, oh man, like this young player looks great down the stretch. He's a name to keep an eye on next September. But when next September comes around, you've forgotten all about that, and everyone's forgotten all about it. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Ilya Sorokin had a shutout today. He's not going to carry that momentum into next season.
Right.
Right. It's just not. That's just not how these things work, as we've learned.
Yeah.
So it sucks, but that's a reminder that for people who are like, you got to tear it down. We got to listen to the people who are saying to tear it down and start anew and rebuild, and you got to suck to be good in this league and all that. This is what it would be like from November on, like Thanksgiving on, where you're just out of it and there's nothing, to really talk about or learn from a season. You are just literally waiting for the next one to come. And then during that season, you're waiting for the next one to come. It's not fun at all. So there's like you're not emotionally invested in any of the games. It's really not, I guess it gets a little bit better when you start to get to like the second stage of the rebuild, when you have some like young players that you're building around, and you think about like the Islanders and that fight night season, the Live as Life season. Yeah. Like playing out the string for those teams was a little different because you felt like they were building towards something. But even then, like there's no guarantee that is going to work. It didn't. So, this part of this part of like the whole experience isn't fun at all. And, I'm glad and I'm grateful that it's over, and I'm grateful that it will only be, 6 games of this basically in total.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that's always been the sort of push and pull of the rebuild is like, yeah, I mean, we get it. The team needs new blood and a new attitude and a new direction. We totally understand that, but you could also be the Sabres and be out of the playoffs for 14 years. Like it's funny to me that we talk a lot about the Islanders' darkest time period, that late 90s to early 2000s era, that where you became a fan, where Mike Milbury was in charge and all that kind of stuff. And somehow you're still a fan. I don't know how you managed to do that, but this is like the lost generations of Islanders fans. That was only 7 years. The Sabres are now twice that. Like, that's unreal that happened. And like, to us, that is still lingering. It's still, to me, I remember that time period very, very, very well. And the feelings that went along with, like what you just talked about, where the season was over before it started because they just had no money. I mean, again, it was a lot worse back then. We didn't know where they were going to play. We didn't know if they were going to be, solvent the next year or be the New York Islanders the next year. But still, when I think about Buffalo and how they're 14 years out of the playoffs, I think, damn, that's twice as long as we had to suffer through. And then, of course, there was another 5-year gap when Tavares showed up. But that second stage is exciting. I mean, that's where you kind of want to get to. And that's what I'm looking at the Senators right now. They missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years out of the playoffs, and now they're in. And their younger players are kind of coalescing together. But even for that, they had to go out and trade for like an actual good goalie to make these things happen. So it's not easy, and everything, depends on a lot of factors. And we've been pretty honest about not really wanting to start a rebuild. But that being said, this team needs a new direction. It needs something because it can't keep going on like this. And this last week or so has been of being like dead men walking almost, not eliminated from the playoffs exactly, but being out of it realistically has just not been any fun at all. And it's I don't really enjoy it, and I don't think the players have enjoyed it. There have been some mixed kind of post-game stuff from the coach. We're not going to get too much into next season, whatever. We still got a couple of games to play. We're going to talk about those in the second half. We'll have plenty of time to go over their clean out days and post-game comments and exit interview stuff, whatever leaks out after that in the next few weeks, into the off season before we switch into alternating mode between this and Weird Islanders. But this last week has not been a fun one with 3 losses, 1 win, the shutout. We'll talk about that in a second. And I don't like it. This has been probably the least I've cared about an Islanders roster in a very, very, very long time. And a lot of that is because I know these guys. Like, we've seen this team, and it's so funny. I was listening, I don't know if I meant to text you this. I don't know if you listened to 32 Thoughts on Friday, but this was after the loss to the Rangers, and while pulling Tristan Lennox and putting him back in, or pulling Lennox, putting Hogberg back in, the whole thing. And Elliot Friedman just kept saying, well, you don't want to overreact to just one game. I know it's a bad loss to your biggest rival. A lot of weird stuff happened. You don't want to overreact to one game. And I'm sitting in my house listening to this, talking into the computer as if he can hear me. It's not one game. It's 4 seasons of this. Right. This isn't just one game, dude. This is, I could overreact to this. It's not overreacting to this one game. It's 4 seasons of this.
4 seasons of 3 coaches. And
yeah.
But you said it wasn't fun. I would go so far as to say like this was a pretty embarrassing week.
Yeah.
To be an Islander fan, to like admit if like I saw somebody in the street and they were like, "Oh man, tough season for your Isles," that if they knew me, I'd just be like, I don't watch that team anymore. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into I don't want to have to be pulled into a conversation where you're like, yeah, no, it was, and I was the sucker who literally to Saturday afternoon against the Flyers, a game that I didn't even watch. I was like, okay, they win, Montreal loses, they win again against New Jersey, Montreal loses to Chicago, and we're right back on, right? Like I was still entertaining those thoughts in my head because I'm sick like that, but at the same time knowing that like this team it needed to just be put to bed, and we should have put it to bed months and months and months ago. But it's hard to do that when, especially for Islander fans, I think like you're so emotionally invested in this. You're thinking about the team so often throughout your day, and you're reminded of it. I mean, if for most of us, I know you're in New Jersey, but for most people listening to this, they're on the island. You walk outside and you're on the physical landmass that the team is named after. It's it's hard not to be kind of like attached to the team like that. It's and that'll keep you invested and hoping until you shouldn't be. And the downside to that is the come down from it is pretty hard. And Um, yeah, not fun at all. And now is the part of I always say, right, like losing seasons and losing has consequences. And I'm not talking, when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, it might mean that Pierre Engvall gets bought out or Scott Mayfield gets bought out. What I mean is like, it's nobody had fun this season.
No.
And so people then carry that baggage into we're going to talk about one person who definitely didn't have fun in a different team for a part of the season too later, but nobody had fun. And then that means that you're making decisions based off of that emotion. Whereas, you make a run to the playoffs like they did last year, the year before, there's something salvageable about it. You can kind of have a shred of belief that, we can, if we could do that, we can build on that. You miss the playoffs and everyone's mad. Everyone's mad at themselves. They had down years. The team had a down year. They're not playing in the spring when everyone wants to be playing. Now they have to stare down the thought of, man, to get back to the playoffs ever again is we have to go through another 82 game season and off season and training camp. Like, it's just not a fun time. And then you make decisions from that, or not even decisions. You say things from that emotional standpoint, and loose lips start to like sink ships. And you have to get used to the fact that because you had a losing season, everything is on the table. Like the last time the Islanders had a losing season, I'll say, let me start with this. When you have a losing season, it's almost a guarantee that somebody you didn't see coming won't be on the team next year.
Yeah.
The last time they had a losing season, it was Barry Trotz.
Right.
So just think about that, right? Nobody was going into that being like, man, Trotz is probably a goner after that.
Yeah.
Because
we were all like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And it's crazy. And you have a seat. I mean, it's a little different, obviously, but the losing season before that one, it was, it cost them Doug Wade, it cost them Gar Snow, and it cost them the guy that they unfortunately drafted in front of Victor Hedman. Like it, whether that would, I know that's a different kind of can of worms, but my point is, like, something happens after these losing seasons, and a lot of times it's not stuff you see coming.
Right.
And there's because you can make those decisions from any and say like, oh yeah, well, we had to do something because of the change. And that leads to what's going to be a very awkward week here where everyone's being asked about next season and nobody wants to talk about it because there's still 2 games left and all that. And it's going to lead, people are frustrated. The last game's going to come and people are going to say things, and Noah Dobson's going to be asked about his contract, and Patrick Waugh will be asked about stuff. And, everybody's going to be asked stuff, and something's going to be said. The media will circle the wagons around the quote. And the next thing you know, it turns into a little bit of a circus. And guess what? You don't have a leg to stand on to be like, that's not fair. You're getting this person's getting taken out of context. This quote that's a Bush League that they took that quote, and now it's on some stupid podcast where these like 2 bros are like talking into a hanging microphone in front of like a bush, and that viral clips goes around hockey media because you had a losing season. People can feast on your bones. That's how it goes. You're not in the playoffs. Everyone can pick you apart and make fun of you and kick you while you're down. And you can't be like, that's not fair, because it is. Like, the Islanders deserve whatever's coming to them.
Oh yeah.
And we deserve it for sticking with them as long as we did. So you just kind of have to take your medicine here. And that medicine's going to come in the form of a lot of different things, from, roster talk and whatever, all that other stuff. And in the front office. And of course the making fun of this roster for being old and the same old Islanders, etc. So that sucks.
Yeah, no, it does suck. And the days of kind of like shoving it in their face are over. We had a good run of those for 3 seasons, and really 4 if you count the first Lane Lambert one, but hasn't worked out since then. Okay, we're gonna get into these games, all 4 of the ones from this week. Reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. We've had all of them this month, so sign up today. Patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety, or remember, you can sign up just for free, no money down, no nothing. And you can get our weekly release calendar so you know what's coming out. Okay, so make sure patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Sign up today. And shout out to Nick, who became our 200th patron this week. So shout out to you, Nick. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And if you want to join in on the fun, you know where to go. Patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Okay. You used the word embarrassing before. I 100% agree. I was going to ask where you wanted to start, but why don't we just take the 3 losses this week and lump them into one embarrassing bucket. Talking about the 7-6 loss to Nashville in overtime, which now feels like it happened a month ago. The 9-2 butt whooping at the hands of the Rangers in UBS Arena, and the 4-3 shootout loss to the Flyers, which eventually actually did eliminate the Islanders from playoff contention. Let's look at those 3 first. I got a million notes here. We don't need to go into them in detail. We will over the course of this discussion. But of those 3, which one would you say was the most embarrassing? Obviously, there's an easy answer here, but they're all embarrassing on their own levels. But is the 9-2 loss to the Rangers the most embarrassing one?
That 9-2 loss to the Rangers is straight out of 1997, or the Islanders should have been wearing their fisherman jerseys, or like the Wave jersey for that,
or Lundqvist should have been in goal.
Yeah,
exactly.
There should have Marty Straka should have had a 6-point night.
Right.
It was that Jaromir Jagr like skating around, not getting touched, and watching Uri Kolnick try to on a breakaway, and he gets stoned in the first minute, and from that point on, the Islanders just get absolutely smashed. It's straight out of 2000, 2001, and it. Yeah, I mean, the worst part about that loss was that it came on the heels of the Rangers having a really embarrassing night at the office the night before, and you thought, the Islanders had. Well, I guess we'll get into the Nashville game next, but they had their own embarrassing demons to deal with. But you thought, okay, at least they'll be up for this because there's a rival match, and there's the Rangers are going to be in all out of sorts. They all hate one another. They hate the coach. They hate the GM. It's just an absolute mess over there. We should at least, be able to save face and get a win against the Rangers for the first time in a long time. It's been a long time since the Islanders have had any sort of success against the Rangers. And it was frankly, I didn't watch any of this game because by the time I wanted to tune in or I was thinking about it, it was over, and you look at the final score, you kind of read the notes, and you watch how it all unfolded and such, and you think to yourself, once again, the Lou Lamoriello that was with the Devils 20 years ago, the Lou Lamoriello was with the Devils in the mid-90s, no matter if his team was eliminated by that point, or it was game 2 of the season, or game 41 of the season, and they were dealing with an injury bug, and all of the Albany River Rats were playing. It wouldn't matter to that man. He would be fuming about that loss, and heads would roll. Like, who knows whose head it would be, but something would have happened. Something would have been maybe not said, but there would have been some sort of smoldering.
Right.
If this was 20-something years ago. Patrick Waugh, goaltender who fought Chris Osgood in one of the most famous brawls in NHL history, who during his first stint as a coach was trying to fight Bruce Boudreau.
Patrick Waugh, who left the Montreal Canadiens after being on the wrong end of a 9-3 game against the Detroit Red Wings.
Right, exactly. A famous picture of Patrick Waugh sulking on the bench. We should have got a picture of Tristan Lennox and Patrick Waugh and that and be like, put it together.
Well, going up to Canadiens owner Ronald Corey behind the bench and saying, "I never play for Montreal Canadiens again." That was his exact words. He left the bench and he was playing for Colorado like 2 days later.
And it's different, right? Like media, it's hard to in a post game scrum to lay that kind of context on a question like you want to.
Yeah, it was
like Patrick. Patrick, I've got a question. We made fun of somebody when they played the Leafs, asking him about turning down Team Canada in 2004. I think it was Steve Simmons.
That's true.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is like a very that was a non sequitur. This is totally related. Be like, do you see the irony here at all? Like that you did this to your goalie when you've got this history. But the point being, this was the type of loss that it sent me over into like the embarrassing territory, because I'm embarrassed that nothing came of it. There wasn't a lineup change afterwards.
No. Yeah.
like there wasn't any situation where they said to like 4 different players, like Ryan Pulock, nobody went to Ryan Pulock or Adam Pelech after being -7 on the night, and we're like, hey guys, whatever. Like these games don't matter from here on out.
They weren't like, screw it, Alex Jeffries, Isaiah George, you're coming up. Just
Right.
here's a game
Anything.
against the Flyers. Like that's it. You
Yeah.
know.
It was we and yeah, there was none of that. And that's that's a shame. Like that's a
Yeah.
shame because it's not. And once again, I'm not saying like it would matter that Alex Jeffries came up and played
Yeah, of course.
three games of NHL experience. I mean, we saw William Dufour play one game, and I don't think he'll ever play in the NHL again, or I'd be surprised if he does. Ruslan Ishkakov played that one game last year and then played in the playoffs, and he's in the I have no idea how he did in the KHL, but he was in the KHL. Like it does, like these late season cameos don't really have an impact. But the point is, there should have been a message sent to the uncles, the country club guys, be like, like go home, go enjoy, go get started early on your off season. To Noah Dobson, you go get ready for your bachelor party and wedding or whatever, and enjoy your Johnny O endorsement. Like you're done. We'll get Scott Perunovich, and we got, Lord knows we've got enough defensemen in this organization that like we don't really need all these guys up here. Let Mike Riley play. Let do some of that, because it just at least would send a message to the fan base that these guys are being punished. Like they're in Chateau de Bow Wow. They're the 7-year-old just sent to their bedroom.
Right. There was a message sent, two as a matter of fact. One by Kyle Palmieri, who said that they didn't play with enough pride in the game, which isn't wrong, but they also didn't play with any defense, which would have been more helpful than pride, to be blunt. Pride isn't going to stop Will Cooley from looking like Rod fucking Gilbert in the middle of this game. I don't know what Will Cooley has done to make the Islanders do. They make this guy look like the greatest
Pele.
Ranger of all time. Every time they play,
he's Pele. He scored with a header.
I don't understand. Is this guy Adam Graves? Like I don't understand what has happened. Why Will Cooley? Not Panarin, not Zibanejad, although he had a goal too. None of these guys. Not even Kreider. It's Will Cooley. Palmieri comes out after, and he's like, we didn't play with enough pride. Obviously, he's very, very upset. Clearly I'm not trying to make fun of Palmieri. He's clearly very upset. And he was the only guy who seemed upset. They go to Patrick Waugh, and they're like, Palms was saying that, you guys didn't play with enough pride tonight. What do you have, like a response? And he said, we still had 45 shots. A team with no pride doesn't do that. So that was the message, which is like, well, at least we had 45 shots. Right. And actually, they had more high danger chances for. The expected goals for were in the Islanders' favor, but you guys lost 9-2
to the Rangers.
You pulled Hogberg. He was terrible. You put in Lennox. He makes one save on 2 shots. He gives up a goal. He's pulled immediately. Less than 5 minutes left, and then Hogberg's back in. And then Waugh is like, it probably wasn't our best decision. Yeah, but you're the guy who made it. I am fully on the fire this asshole train now. Like I can't with this guy anymore. He's completely lost the plot. And I think I figured out exactly why Patrick Waugh just rubs me the wrong way. He's clearly come in with this idea, starting maybe from last year, but definitely from this year's training camp. He definitely came in with this idea of saying, this is how we're going to play. We're going to put a lot of pucks on to net. And that's it. And to their credit, the Islanders do actually put a lot of pucks on net. They're actually 7th in the NHL, I believe, in shots or something like that. They're pretty good. I mean, for a team that's not in the playoffs, they put a lot of shots on net. The problem is an astonishingly low percentage of those shots actually go in the net for goals. So you can put all the pucks on net you want. If they're not going in, that's a problem. But they throw all these pucks on net. None of them go in. They end up losing, often by embarrassing scores, of which there were 2 this week, right? Then the coach comes out afterwards and he says, I thought we played a good game. He said that after the Flyers game too. He said, I thought we played a good game, which they lost in the shootout again by not scoring any goals. And it's like, if the goal of the game is to put shots on net, then you did play a good game, I suppose. But if the goal is to win the game by scoring more than the other team, then you failed miserably. You lost 9-2. So his goal is clearly just put a lot of shots on net, but why are they not going in? How do you remedy the fact that they take all these shots and they don't go in? You got to fix it, man. That's your job. He clearly has no desire to fix this. He's just happy to get a lot of shots, which is like, that's not how it works. I don't understand to me, this is the way it works in junior, because a lot of times the goalie on the other end is probably going to be either playing in Europe or working in an insurance office like a week after the season is over. So a lot of them are going to go in. This is the NHL. These pucks aren't going to go in. And for the Islanders, they almost never go in. I'm going to get into some stats later on too, but this to me was just egregious. Like, you can't come out after losing 9-2 to the Rangers and be like, yeah, I thought we played with pride. We had 45 shots. Dude, you got to read the room. You've been here long enough to know what this means. Like, to me, this, I'm sure I was out before then, but now I'm just fully off of this guy,
It's such a funny contrast to what he was last year when he came in, when he was saying, he said all the right things, about restoring pride, getting fans to want to watch them again.
Yeah.
Playing well at home. That he had like that midnight rule quote where it's like, you don't think about anything after midnight, win or lose. And then everybody seemed to buy into the ethos that he was putting down. Matt Barzal said he's showing us the blueprint to become champions.
Right.
He's fucking Patrick Waugh. So you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And now it's just getting harder to defend the body of work. That said, like I'm rooting for Patrick Waugh and I'm rooting for Lou Lamoriello just because it'd be such a cool thing for Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Waugh to be the guys who win a Stanley Cup on Long Island. And until they're gone, like, I'm just always going to root for that. I love these two men as like hockey characters. So it's like, yeah, I'm rooting for Patrick Waugh. I don't know if I endorse the way he's coached this season at all. And what's frustrating is he's sometimes he's like let the cat out of the bag a bit when he's alluded to how weird the season's been and the injuries and stuff like that. And I think these professional athletes and coaches and GMs, they're so, especially in this day and age when everyone seems to be on the hot seat and everyone has a shelf life, they're so afraid to use excuses.
Yeah.
Except for Rod Brendamore. Like, they're so they're so afraid to use excuses in the media that they'll almost double down going the other way. When if Patrick Waugh 6 weeks ago was like, I don't know what to tell you guys, like some weird shit is going on, I cannot make sense of it. I was warned about this when I took over as the head coach of the Islanders. Like, people were like, you got to be careful there. There's some demons in your closet every night you go to sleep as head coach of the Islanders. If you're associated to that team, there's there's some weird shit, right? You gotta you're in this weird battle with some darker forces than just the opposing team. And if he had just admitted to that and been like, we're trying to make sense of it and things are weird going on, and that's just how it goes. I'd almost respect that more than saying like the third of the however many losses this season, 45 losses this season, 35 of them have been we played all right, like we played pretty well, even and some of them in very lopsided losses. There was that loss to the Sabres where we joked like about it, and like afterwards they were like, yeah, we didn't play as bad as the score was. Like, yeah, you guys lost 7-1 to the Buffalo Sabres right before the Christmas break. It was a pretty crucial part of the season where you could have built on something, and instead you did that. That's not how you get fans on your side and make people proud to come watch you. And after a 9-2 loss to the Rangers, once again, Patrick Waugh of the Montreal Canadiens, a 9-2 loss to the Maple Leafs, Patrick Waugh of the Avalanche, a 9-2 loss to the Detroit Red Wings, where it's not Sergei Fedorov scoring against you, it's Darren McCarty,
right?
Like, it's
Chris Draper,
right? Chris Draper's running around you, heading pucks in the goal,
right? Yeah. I'm not saying he's got to throw everybody under the bus. I'm just saying, don't come out and tell me you played good.
Right. And he does throw. There's been a few, and this isn't just him, right? Every coach seems to have like the guys that they rag, but you throw the whole. If you're gonna do it, start throwing everyone around. Like there's some guys who've been indefensively bad for most of the season, or like Noah Dobson. I wouldn't say he's been bad, but he's been disappointing. This season, and everyone seems so afraid to go there, and the Islanders were never that kind of team. No matter what era of Islanders hockey you watched, the Islanders to me weren't ever a team where it was like, well, you can't you can't call out Brad Isbister. You could call out whoever you wanted because it was the Islanders. Nobody was paying attention. Like, this isn't hockey. You're not on Hockey Night in Canada coaching the Montreal Canadiens and calling out Ryan Pollock for having a tough night at
Yeah.
the office. You're on Long Island. There's 3 beat reporters in the locker room. Very small fan base. The season's over. I don't think it's going to make a huge ripple in the hockey world if you say like, yeah, he had a pretty tough night and he's got to sit.
They asked him about Pellick and Pullock, and basically his thing was, I'm not going to single anybody out, but when you turn the puck over, there's no defensive structure anymore. And it basically kind of alluding to the fact that they just kept turning the pucks over all night and giving up odd man rushes to the Rangers, which is true, but it was like 2 senior guys that were at the heart of many of those turnovers. So,
Right.
I mean, I think they if Anthony Duclair dogging it and Pierre Engvall being Pierre Engvall, like, generated some sort of, backlash and call out from I think that Pellick and Pullock have also earned it by playing poorly in an important game.
That's the point. Right. And like I said, like, I feel like the Islanders had never been a team where that's off limits, right? We're not the Maple Leafs where you hear Nick Kyrgios always say there's like a team A and a team B, and they always no matter who has been coaching them, they're afraid to talk about the core 4 guys and call them out. Like the Islanders, partly because they just don't ever have superstars. Like that's part of the kind of culture here, was that everyone is on equal footing. Barry Trotz was, and Lambert, I think, to his credit too, like they were okay with, Matt Barzal had a rough night, or Josh Bailey was in the press box, and it's just.
I remember Trotz calling out Eberle specifically in an early game against Tampa Bay that first year. They lost. They had a lead, or they were tied late, and Eberle left the zone too early, and it gave up the game-winning goal to Tampa Bay late. And this was this was October or November that first year under Trotz. And in his post-game thing, he was fuming, and he did not shy away from the fact that it was Eberle, like who was a beloved guy, was a veteran guy, on this team, and one of the guys count on to score. And I was like, whoa, that's really, really rare that he got called out like that. And the time when he, Casey Zizekas was like, yeah, we hung in there, and he was like, they're not paid to hang in, they're paid to win.
Right. And that we're very far away from that. And it's not even like a little thing, right?
No.
It's not it was a boneheaded mistake by Isaiah George that cost them a game in November against the Winnipeg Jets, and they lost 2-1 in a decently fought game. They lost 9-2 to the Rangers. If there was ever a time to just be like, let it out and call these guys out for the season that they've had, it was then.
They were down 4-0 after the first period.
And they haven't beat them this season. They've lost in embarrassing fashion to the Rangers. I think they played 8 times in the past 2 years. I think they might have won 1 last year, and then they lost. They lost the other 3. Obviously, there was the Stadium Series game. They played that one decent game where they lost in a shootout, which was a huge point to like clinch the playoffs last year. And then they were embarrassed every game this year. 5-2 was the first one. Then they lost 9-2 this one. They had the 2 that were really close to one another, with where the Islanders played okay but lost by like 3 or 4 goals each. So they like if you want to get Islander fans on your side, and you want people to go into the offseason and be like, this guy deserves another season, and we want to show up next on October 10th or whatever to watch them blow a lead to Utah on a home opener night, be like, yeah, no, these guys are. It's been a disappointing season, and they have a lot of like mirror searching to do. And even I remember another thing Trotz said after they lost to the Eastern Conference Final to the Lightning the second time. He's like, the reality is like, you're no matter what, win the Stanley Cup or come in last place, this group won't be together. Like there's always going to be changes, and this is the time to be like, yeah, there's going to be changes here, and anyone who goes deserves to go. Because of the season we just had, and there's none of that. There's none of that coming out of the from anyone who should be saying it, and it's very frustrating as a fan, because you're just like, well, then what do I have to like look forward to next year, when if the Islanders they extend it to the 21-26 season, right? Like what do we have to look forward to, and to believe that they'll definitely. Heads will definitely roll this time because they rolled the last 3 times when they didn't. Like it's enough to do your head in.
I was going to say that there's not a single person making it pretty clear that this is not acceptable.
Right.
But then I just remembered that Doug Waite used to use the words that's unacceptable after every game.
Uh.
And they just kept doing it for months. Like they
Right.
finished that season with like what was it, like an 8-game losing streak or a 12 game, some 15-game losing streak, something like that. So every night was unacceptable, but yet nobody ever, changed anything. So
yeah. And we're gonna talk about the Predator, like this.
I was gonna say,
this 9-2 loss. It didn't come after like a 6-game winning streak where they were like, you have every once in a while you have a dud. Like, God, if the Islanders were good enough to have to be able to say that after a loss, it would be great. But they're not, and
no.
the curse against the Predators lives on, and this was the perfect way to drive a final nail into a coffin. Like I wish there was some ominous music playing throughout this entire game because it was so. I almost am thankful that it happened this way.
Yeah, the Rangers game came after a 7-6. Like I said, I mean, just saying it out loud is hilarious. 7-6 overtime loss to Nashville. It was a wild game, but with just a few minutes left, after Scott Mayfield, of all people, made the game 6-4 with a shorthanded goal, which was Simon Holmstrom's 4th point of the game. Dude almost had his first hat trick. Everything was kind of going the Islanders' way in this incredibly wild game. It looked like they were finally going to get a win in Nashville for the first time in forever. All of a sudden, they shot themselves in the foot, which they have done often this season. This parade to the penalty box starts. Steven Stamkos wires in a shot on a 5-on-3 power play through a brilliant screen by Scott Mayfield on his own goalie, makes it 6-5. And then Stamkos again, point shot with a couple of seconds left. They gave it to Michael Bunting, but it looked to me like it went off of Alex Romanov's shoulder and past Marcus Hogberg. So we tied at 6. We go to overtime. There's chances on both ends. And then Fedor Svechkov, who I will admit I never heard of in my entire life, of course, scores the game winner 7-6. This was the game Ilya Sorokin left hurt. Obviously, he wasn't too hurt because he came back to shut out the Devils today. We will get to that game in a minute. Justus Annunen made 16 saves in a game that, again, the Islanders and kind of seemed to have their way with the Predators for once. But then the Predators decided, like, no, wait, we never lose to these guys. And then they just came back to win, no matter who's on the team, even if it's Steven Stamkos. I wrote down dumb game, dumb lost point, but it doesn't matter. And that was basically what it boiled down to. And it's like, this is the kind of game where this season, it sort of fits right in that the team that can't score, can't lock down anything, loses 7-6 to a team that they just always lose to, it seems. And, when Mayfield scored that goal, I thought to myself, okay, this is going to be a feel-good win. We haven't had one in a while. This will be really nice. It'll be their 3rd straight win, which would be pretty cool. And then, again, just a slow parade to the penalty box happened. And I thought, are they really going to do this? And then once Stamkos scored that first one, I'm like, I know they never left their own zone. Like, and it's just, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand why. Again, listen, I get it that they were hanging on by a thread. They wouldn't be eliminated until 2 games later, but this was just about as demoralizing a game as you probably. And then I'm pretty sure Waugh came out and said again afterwards, we played good. Again, you can't say that. You just say it was a weird game and we blew it. We blew the, I don't even know. I don't know. Did you watch this one at all?
Yeah, so this was the night that the Islanders, they were playing the Preds, and the Canadians were playing the Red Wings.
Right.
And basically, you needed, if the Red Wings had won and in regulation and the Islanders had won, you can sort of keep the door open for a little bit longer. And
there was another game going on at this time too that would have wiped the Islanders off the map. We'll get to that in a second too.
This was it wasn't just a demoralizing loss. It was a demoralizing night, and it was a real reminder of like how much time we've wasted on this team, not just this season, but of the whole 2021-2025 season. That because it became pretty clear to me from the moment the puck was dropped in the Detroit game that this was just not going to be a good night for the Islanders. Like the Red Wings outshot the Canadians something like 26-6 in the first period, and it was only 1-0 Wings, and it was very clear that they needed to have scored more to win. And then Habs tie it up. It's 1-1 into the 3rd period, and I've decided at this point, like, I'm not even going to watch the Islander game because that game doesn't even matter unless the Canadians lose this one. Right. So I'm watching the Canadians Red Wings game. Um, Red Wings turn the puck. Vlad Tarasenko turns the puck over at the blue line, and then it looks like the Red Wings kind of have the situation under control when some guy named Albert Johansson gets sandwiched between two Canadians behind the net. His helmet pops straight up into the air, and Josh Anderson notices that and knows, oh, this guy's got to go pick up his helmet because of that dumb rule. And Albert Johansson, instead of, just trying to get away with it and blocking the puck, he skates over to his helmet, which is kind of in front of the net, bends over onto all fours to pick up his helmet. Someone on the Canadians passes the puck through him as he's picking up his helmet and right to Josh Anderson, who has a tap-in empty net goal. And I thought about all the Red Wings fans that just watched that goal and were like, holy shit, our season just ended like that. And I wanted to reach out to them and be like, yeah, so did ours. And we're not even in this game. And that's just how this season has gone. And then I turn on the Islander game because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I watch a goal, like you said, it goes a game-tying goal that goes off of Alex Romanov's undefined area. Like, I don't even know what you could say, how that puck ends up in the back of the net. And that's what that was. It was just a real stark reminder of how much time we wasted, because this season was never going to go well. How many times have I alluded to the fact that we knew the season was cursed? Game 2.
Yeah.
We brought it up. We're like, oh my God, this could be a cursed season again because of what happened against Utah. And then they follow it up with maybe their best game of the season against Dallas, and they don't score. And I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be this type of season. That was game 2. Had we all just decided, look, we like doing the podcast, we like being Islander fans, we love talking to you guys, but let's just cut our losses here. We'll reconvene next September, and everyone can, go hang out with your family and your friends and your loved ones, because this is going to be a lot more productive than watching this team twist and turn you into something unrecognizable through an 82 game season, and have it basically come to an explosion ending where they lose to a team that is one of the worst teams in the league, but it's a team they can never beat, and it's a building they never win in, despite being up 2 goals with 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
In a must-win game, and in a game where they've convinced themselves, because of, we were talked about a little bit after the Ovechkin game, how the whole broadcast and Gretzky, everyone was like, wow, you guys needed to have this game and you got it. Like, congratulations. Like, you're still in the playoff race. And we were like, yeah, they're not really. But if they won this Predators game, they still would be in it. At least until the Ranger game, because the Canadians then started to finally lose, and but they couldn't hold that to a 2-goal lead against the worst team in the NHL. How many leads did they blow in this game? They were up 1-0. They were up 2.
Oh, I mean, it was back and forth the whole time.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a gong show. Like the Islanders. The other thing that I left thinking after this game was the Islanders. They've been mediocre. They've been kind of frustrating and confusing at times, entertaining and fun to be a part of throughout this 21-25 season. But the one thing they really haven't been has been a gong show. Like they've had gong show moments on the ice, but every team has them and whatever. They're now turning it. It does seem like they're turning into a little. They're like kind of veering into gong show territory,
right?
With the way they're losing games, the way they're following up embarrassing losses like this to a game against the Rangers. Nobody being held accountable. This is starting to get into gong show territory. And the Tristan Lennox thing, we didn't even really touch on it. Like that situation, we're there, and that's not a place I want to be, because it takes a long time for the Islanders to come back from that.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
Well, and we've lived it, like them being a real gong show.
Right.
It's I don't know,
PTSD, right? Like, when you see stuff like this, you're like, oh my God, am I going to see like Mike Milbury fire the coach and start coaching the team the next game? Like,
right. Yeah.
This can't be good.
No. I mean, I don't think we're getting to that level yet. Hopefully not. But this game was just, like you said, a gong show, and it's I don't even know how to describe it, but at the same time, you have a 2-goal lead with whatever it was, like 5 minutes to go. This is the National Hockey League. You got to lock this down. I don't care what kind of game it is, what the situation is like. You need to be able to stop one of the worst teams in the league from tying the game. And this team just doesn't do that. And this is where it gets really frustrating because you're just like, you guys realize this is a hockey game, right? Like, there's other teams in the league that this would never, ever, like, could you imagine? I mean, the Lightning, I'm sure, have had 7-6 games before, been up 6-4 in games before. How many times has the team come back and tied that game? Never, right? And what helped out the Islanders in this case is that the Canucks and Stars were playing this same night, and the Canucks erased a 3-goal deficit with a minute to go, won in overtime. And so when I woke up the next morning, everybody was talking about that. Nobody noticed that the Islanders did almost the same thing, just to a much worse team than the Stars, and to much less fanfare. So once again, by through their own incompetence and the incompetence of those around them, the Islanders managed to kind of skate away without really getting noticed for the gong show that they are. And, nobody really cared that, it was just, a game that they weren't paying attention to. But like, had that Canucks game not happened, I'm sure people would have been like, wait, the Islanders did what? And there were a few people that would noticed it, but not really. But, and again, what sucks is that like Simon Holmstrom has been one of the actual legitimately good stories in this season. A guy who's scored 20 goals now for the first time in his career and is making a name for himself after, being called a reach. And, this guy's going to be a bust. Why did they take this guy? He's a good player. He's an everyday NHL player. He just scored 20 goals and he had 4 points in this game, and it just got washed away because his team literally couldn't stop 68-year-old Steven Stamkos from basically scoring 2 goals within the last minute of the game and taking. And then somebody named Fedor Svechkov, who I guess is maybe the Predators' version of Simon Holmstrom, I don't know, scoring in the overtime. It's really ridiculous. But that brings it, believe it or not, there was another loss this week. Neither of these games, as embarrassing as they were, we've been talking for over 50 minutes now, as embarrassing as these two games were against the Predators and against the Rangers, the game that actually eliminated the Islanders from the playoffs was a garden variety shootout loss in Philadelphia on Saturday afternoon. The Islanders lost 4-3. Again, they had a lead. They blew it. It was 3-2 Philly late in the third. Bo Horvat with a minute left scores kind of a seeing eye shot through a screen. These are two bad teams. The Flyers have been eliminated forever. There was a beautiful play, by the way. Dobson scored a goal on a beautiful behind the back pass from Horvat, who was everywhere. Bo Horvat had a great game, but ultimately they go to the shootout. And once again, the Islanders go into a shootout and come out with 0 goals. This time it was 5 rounds. They had 2 extra shooters and they still couldn't find a goal. Bobby Brink scored the only goal of the shootout and the Flyers won. Hogbar looked a lot better than he did against the Rangers. Sam Ersson made 37 saves. And again, Patrick Waugh comes out and says, yeah, I thought we played good because they had, whatever it was, 30, 37, 40 shots. And one of my friends who's a Flyers fan was like, I'd like to know where these 40 shots came from. I was like, they're the 40 least threatening shots you've ever seen in NHL history, because they really were. They outshot the Flyers actually 40-22. And they were officially eliminated by that. We'll get to who else was eliminated a little bit later in the show. And so, like, on one hand, we've seen this game before too. Just a 4-3 over shootout loss, no goals. This is, what are they, 6-18 or something in shootouts in this era? And to quote Ethan on the Isles House podcast, how many goals have they scored in those shootouts? Probably 0. Like, just, I don't know. I mean, they scored 6, I guess, at least, but I just, losing in the shootout is kind of a small symptom of a bigger problem, which is that this team just simply doesn't understand how to score goals. They don't understand how to put the puck in the net, and it has hurt them. The power play, we'll get to against the Devil, and when we talk about the Devils game real quick in a minute, is just, again, atrocious. They were talking about it on the TBS panel. Like, how bad is this power play, and how much did it cost them a playoff spot? A lot. I just don't get it. But, according to the coach, they played good because they had 40 shots on net. Like, that's not helping anybody. So this is another one you skipped, right? You didn't miss, if you skipped it, you didn't miss anything. I know it was a shitty day Saturday with the weather, but hopefully you did something better than watch this game like I did.
No, yeah, I did not want. I'm not going to watch these games. Just because I know it's probably in their best interest to lose, but I'm not going to watch a game where I want the Islanders to lose. It's just like a weird thing. And it felt kind of like I was a little happy, I guess, that they did lose, just because it finally did eliminate them, and you can stop. They can stop saying, we're gonna keep fighting until somebody takes it from us or whatever, but somebody took it from them. They're done. That's nice. It ended up being the Philadelphia Flyers. And in a weird way, I was so the Maple Leafs beat the Canadiens in overtime on Saturday night. And after that game, I really got to thinking, like, how easy it would have been for this team in this season to have made the playoffs.
Yeah. If they had a functional power play, they would have made the playoffs.
A functional penalty kill, even one or the other. If they had one of the other, they didn't even need both. Like, they could have been dead last in one of them and 16th in the other or 20th in the other. They're in the playoffs. Semyon Varlamov plays more than 10 games.
Yeah.
Islanders are probably in the playoffs. Adam Pelech doesn't get hurt for 20-something games. Islanders are probably in the playoffs. Matt Barzal doesn't get hurt twice and limited to 30 games in the season.
Right.
Anthony Duclair doesn't tear his groin.
Mm-hmm.
They don't blow 7 third-period leads in like the first 15, 20 games of the season. They don't get shut out 6 times in like the first month of the season. Remember that when they were just kept getting shut out? They don't get swept by the Red Wings, Rangers combined. Like,
right.
They
don't score one combined goal against the Ducks and Blue Jackets.
Then that back to back, right? Yeah, probably make the play. Like the Canadians will probably, if you go by just like likelihood, let's say they end at 90 points. Let's say the Islanders get 2 more points. They're at 84, 6 points difference. The Islanders also spotted the Canadians a couple points this year, in because they blew a lead to them twice, during the season. You don't do that, we're having a very different conversation, and that really made me upset. Like, going to bed that night thinking about that, because I've thought of as past doing that as just a fan, like spilt milk stuff, but it's almost impossible not to do in the season, because the stuff that has gone wrong has either been completely 100% inexplicably their fault, or so in the other direction that just horrible luck. And you can't like excuse you can't excuse the first part because of the second part at all, because this team, they said, oh yeah, we're fighting it, we're resilient, we're never going to give up and all that, and sure, I believe them, but at the same time, that there's different ways to do that, including like not turning the puck over 1 million times against the Rangers, and holding on to a lead against the Blackhawks, or holding on to a lead against the Red Wings, scoring a goal against Joel Hofer. Like there's ways to make it so when this maelstrom of terrible luck from the hockey gods comes your way, you don't have to be perfect. And they were never able to do that. And so I think Islander fans have every right to be like, we were hard done by this season. The Islanders had terrible luck. Even on like a game by game level, you go to this week. My brother, I saw him today, asked me if I watched the game, and he said that the first goal against the Flyers, I guess, was like an insane bounce, somehow ends up in the back of the net. Ilya Sorokin had a goal scored off his head a couple days ago. Like, it's we're allowed to be like, I can't believe how unlucky and shitty the Islanders' hand was dealt this year.
Yeah,
the team is not. Like, at this point, like there's no excuse for the players to be like, yeah, it's just, the injuries were hard to overcome and stuff like that. Because it wasn't. You just have to be better than the Montreal Canadiens, and one way to do that was to not have a terrible power play.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's I'm all confused and upset about this team.
Well, because it's a bit of confusing, upsetting season. Before we get to the Devils game, I want to focus on the elimination aspect of this Flyers game, and these are some interesting stats here, and this comes from Stefan Rosner's email newsletter that he puts out, and I thought this was really interesting. So, in this 24-25 season, the Islanders were eliminated in game 79. Okay, last year they clinched a playoff spot in game 81. The year before, they clinched a playoff spot in game 82. They obviously made it 6 games into the playoffs that year, 5 games into the playoffs last year. But in the 21-22 season, which we have been calling the Murphy's Law season, they were eliminated in game 75. which is so, a little bit, maybe a week or so before they were officially eliminated this year. And it made me think about that season. Again, we call it the Murphy's Law season. Everything that could go wrong did. That was the season of the endless road trip to start the season, the opening of UBS Arena, which frankly could have gone a lot smoother, the 3 separate COVID breaks, the only good news of which was we started making Weird Islanders the podcast. Tons of injuries. The Zdeno Chara thing didn't really work out. He was very much showing his age at that point. They just were absolutely terrible when they could play. They almost never got on track at all. The end of the season, the shocking relieving of Barry Trotz of his duties, which now, seems to be that it was his, lose choice because Barry was kind of burnt out, wanted to go into management, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that they were eliminated in game 75 is a little bit misleading, because it was a little bit like this season where they were officially eliminated at late in the season, but really realistically, they were eliminated a long time before that. They would have had to have put together some kind of notable winning streak, which at that point in the season, you knew they simply weren't going to do that because they hadn't had it in their DNA that year. They just couldn't do it. And like Mike said, that it ended up with changes being made. But I'm starting to think that maybe that Murphy's Law season isn't quite what I remember. And I looked it up again. This is just on hockeyreference.com. Do you know what the Islanders' goals against, like what they were in goals against in the NHL that year? Like what rank they were?
I'd guess like 12th, 13th.
They were 7th in goals against that year out of 32 teams. 7th best in the entire NHL. Goals for, they were 22nd, which is not good, but not the bottom, right? They were 22nd. I believe their penalty kill was 4th in the NHL that year.
Yes, yeah.
And their power play was 12th.
That was the season where I think they killed something like, they went like the first 15 games or whatever without giving up a power play goal.
Right.
And no, I remember thinking about this, like, and because when we talked about reasons to be optimistic the next season, we're like, it really wasn't that bad. We sound crazy, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, they were 12th on the power play, which is shocking. Now, looking at this season, okay, goals against, they are 19th out of 32 teams. Goals for, 26th out of 32 teams. And on both the power play and the penalty kill, they are second to last. They might be last now after this Devils game. We'll get to that again in a minute. But I was just thinking to myself, damn, that 21-22 Murphy's Law season that felt so miserable and so strange and so embarrassing at the time. Again, the Islanders came in with very real dreams of Stanley Cup. People were literally picking them to win the Stanley Cup after the 2 straight runs to the conference finals, picking up Zach Parise, picking up Zdeno Chara. I think that had a lot to do with it. But I was thinking, damn, that team would probably beat the shit out of this team. Like, I didn't realize that they had some good underlying. I'm not saying it was a good season, obviously, but like some of their underlying numbers weren't that bad. Considering compared to what these guys are doing this year, that team almost looks like an all-star team. And I was like, geez, maybe I've been thinking about this all wrong. Maybe there's just something about this era, this 4-year stretch. And also the other thing too about these numbers, the being eliminated or clinching, with 1 or 2 games to go, just goes to show you that we've been living on this hamster wheel for 4 seasons now.
Yeah.
We've literally just we're reliving the same season over and over again. It's just that twice they managed to make the playoffs late and then, not stay around that long. And then two other times they were eliminated. So this stat from Stefan Rosner's newsletter just sort of blew my mind. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm recontextualizing everything. It's like when you're seeing a movie and they reveal who the killer is and you're like, oh, and then you go back through everything, holy shit, it was there the whole time. Maybe it's just been there the whole time. I just don't know. Yeah,
that what's so upsetting about that season is that truly was, everybody could say like we're unlucky this year.
Yeah,
like, that's it. Like it was the Murphy's Law season. Every time it looked like the Islanders are about to get started on something weird would happen. Josh Bailey would be stuck in Florida. Matt Barzal would go missing. Ryan Pulock was like missing for a lot of that season. He was hurt.
They couldn't get more than like 2 wins or 3 wins in a row or something like that.
And they started the season really well too. Remember we talked about that article that was written by someone at Sportsnet. Like the Islanders had beat the Golden Knights. They were like whatever 6-2-2 to start the season, and somebody at Sportsnet was like, wow, this team is, that's just what the Islanders do. They just show up, they do their job, they win games, and then they go home. And from that point on, like it was the exact kiss of death right there, because all hell broke loose from that point on, and everyone's getting hurt. That was the season where it took forever for Zach Parise to score.
Yes.
He despite having an incredible amount of chances. Same with Paul Mary, just like they were really snake bit. And that's my point. Like, it's that team could go to bed at night, be like, well, we gave it our all. Like Richard Panik was here at one point. We're trying our best, like with Paul Ledoux opening up UBS Arena. It's not, this is not our fault. This season, as weird as it's been, and as much as the coach should just be like, it's been fucking crazy, rather than saying that we're playing well, this is their fault. It's both things this season. It's there's been a lot of Murphy's Law elements to this season. Every bounce that you can imagine going against the Islanders has. Brendan said something again in the Predators game. The Islanders got a good bounce in the first period that led to a goal. And he's like, wow, that was a good bounce for the Islanders. And I was like, don't say that, because you just told the hockey gods exactly what they, oh God, we gotta pay that one back. And they did in tenfold with the bounce they gave the Predators in the dying minutes. But as much as those bounces have gone against the Islanders all season, they've also shot themselves in the foot enough. They've had enough, they've got one defenseman who is still on his, Venice honeymoon wedding of the century. They've got another one who's looking forward to who's got his phone out. Adam Pelech is just really mad all the time because he's not playing well, it seems. Or is it, they just, this is their fault. There's a point, right? It's like that team, I think I could look, whether it's Zdeno Chara or Robin Salo or Austin Zarnik in the eye and be like, they could tell me, yeah, that was a brutal season, and it was really just not our fault. We played okay. And I'd be like, you're right. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. If Noah Dobson wanted to do that this season, I'd be like, dude, please move along here. Like,
watch the tape, dude. Watch the tape. Put your phone down and watch the tape. Seriously. Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to put it. It just, that must have been, but it also, again, after coming off of those 2 seasons, it just felt like the world was falling apart. And now we're 4 seasons later of similar seasons where it seems like the world is falling apart the whole time. And somehow they made the playoffs twice.
And these seasons should be bookends, right? Like they should. That should be the beginning of the era of this 2021-2025 season, and this should hopefully be the end of it. And I'm happy you brought the season up, because at the end of that season, we kind of all knew that this team was going to stick together, because the Islanders had ample opportunity to trade some good pieces at the deadline, and they didn't do that. Whether it was Parise, Cizikas, Mayfield, Clutterbuck, I believe, as well. Like there was Varlamov. Like there was a lot of moves the Islanders could have made at the deadline, and Lou stood completely pat and was basically like, no, they're going to give these guys another chance. And at the time, we're like, that's fine. Like they went to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. They had this insane Murphy's Law season. Let's see what they do. And little did we know, it was just going to keep this was just going to keep happening over and over and over again to various degrees of success. But now we're at a point that we got 2 more games left of this group, and we're going to go to bed on that Thursday night after they play whoever they play to end the season. And that's probably going to be the last time we see a lot of these guys. Is not a lot, but relative to the 21-22 Islanders, where everybody came back except for the guys that retired. This is probably going to be it for a handful of players, and including some that you just don't see coming. So, and it's their fault. It is 100% their fault.
Their fault. And I don't think we'll be sad to see them go. That's the other thing.
Right. Too. And that sucks.
It does suck.
If the Islanders in 21-22 had traded away Cal Clutterbuck, it would have been heartbreaking.
Right.
Same goes for like Mayfield and whoever else. But if they do it this time to those kind of level of players, it'd be like, what else are you going to do? Like something had to happen.
Well, bye. Real quick before we hit the break, we should talk about their one actual victory this week, which was Sunday's 1-0 victory in New Jersey two things really notable came out of this. One, Ilya Sorokin made 24 saves. He was really, really good, again, coming off of his injury in the Nashville game. It's his fourth shutout of the season, which is remarkable considering that's the season they've had and all the goals they've given up. And he ties Billy Smith in the franchise record books with 22 shutouts. The leader in that category, still Chico Resch, which I believe 29, but maybe 24. I'm not sure, but that's pretty remarkable for Sorokin to tie. Anytime you tie one of these guys, again, we talked about people passing Brock, we talked about Brock Nelson and Anders Lee and even John Tavares passing guys like Bobby Nystrom, Clark Gillies, Pat LaFontaine, Brent Sutter on these lists. If you're a goalie and you tie Billy Smith in something, that's pretty impressive. So good on Sorokin. At first I was like, why is he playing? And then he ends up getting a shutout. And you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. The second thing was an injury to Adam Pelech. He goes knee on knee with Paul Cotter. Cotter apparently has a hearing tomorrow with player safety. Pelech, was kind of going in. It was a weird collision. Looked like Pelech was trying to like either slash him or go for the puck. Cotter looked like he was going for the puck at first, and then he sort of like puts his elbow out or something and catches Pelech in the head. The Pelech was bloody. He left the game. Hopefully he's okay. But again, there's 2 games left in the season. Just call it a day, man. And that was about it. Bo Horvat's only goal of the game. Nice steal from Timo Meier. So an unassisted goal there was beautiful. If you watch the TNT broadcast, I apologize because you had to watch Paul Bissonnette. They were talking about, boy, that's some pizza that Meier left out there for Horvat to pick up. And Biz was like, well, I'd rather have a pizza in New Jersey than on Long Island. Hilarious. Anyway, that's all I need to say about this game. Great game by Sorokin. Show that he's okay. And again, tying Billy Smith and just being right behind Chico Resch is pretty impressive. So, I mean, it's safe to say he will be the Islanders shutout leader at some point. I don't know if that means anything to him, but it means something to me and a lot of other people for sure. So I don't suppose, I guess you didn't watch this one either. None of this matters, like you said.
Right, that's it.
Off the top. So it's cool, but at the end of the day, I mean, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's a footnote, and it reminds me a little bit of like when in that 21-22 season where the season kind of just turned into, hey, let's try to get Brock Nelson to 40 goals.
Yeah,
like that was like the goal of the team, and that's not what I really want to watch. And it was I was happy to see Sorokin. I thought for a second that Tristan Lennox was going to play. I also liked that the Islanders were really coy about Sorokin's injury, as if they were like, oh, we can't let the Devils know what's wrong with Sorokin and if he's going to start because this is for this huge game coming up. Just tell us if he's okay. Like he was obviously okay. You could have just said he's day to day for real. Islander fans who've been through this, and there's only 3 games left, so don't worry. But yeah, all I'll say about this is that the Islanders, with Pelech getting hit, I said this to my brother too before this happened, was I saw like the replay to the Engvall thing a couple of games ago too. It's just, you just at some point you just look at the sky and you're like, can you just stop picking on this team? Like at this point it doesn't matter. Like there's no stakes anymore. So can you just I don't need to see Adam Pelech get another concussion in a meeting, this time in a meaningless game. Like you're going to put this guy's career in jeopardy right now in a meaningless game where he's just trying to get to the offseason. Great. So that will likely hey, maybe we see Scott Perunovich next week. Next game if Pelech comes out, who knows? Perunovich is he's played 1 fewer game than Semyon Varlamov this season. Perunovich has played 9. Tristan Lennox, by the way, we've been joking this season about how the race for Weird Islander of the Year is going to be one for the ages. And Tristan Lennox just, he threw his hat in the ring with his Islanders debut. So yeah, congratulations to the contenders for this year's Weird Islander award, because it was a runaway for Robert Bortuzzo last year. I don't even know if you had thrown Bortuzzo on this team, if he would even be in the top 3 weirdest Islanders. So it's I don't know. I just really hate games like this, and I'm grateful that as we were saying, like we've had to do very few episodes where we're talking about stuff in dead rubber scenarios.
Yeah, seriously. Tristan Lennox, if he ends up being the weirdest Islander of the year, we might have to call in Eric Hornick. I don't know, because there's some serious statistical anomalies going on there that we might need him to walk us through.
I meant to ask, did Dennis Cholowski play for the Devils today?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I didn't see him
What a
out there.
shame. That's why they lost.
Yeah, probably. Real quick correction. Chico Resch is the Islanders' all-time leader with 25 shutouts. So Sorokin is now 3 behind him, and I guess we'll pass him at some point. I also found, if I completely forgot, that Ilya Sorokin also tied Billy Smith this year on the Islanders' goal-scoring list with 1. So amongst Islanders goalies.
And Hudson Fasching did end up tying Sorokin, right? He scored in the Flyers game, I believe. Fasching
Yes.
did.
So
it's
wow.
Good for Fasching. That now leaves Sorokin, Fasching, and Isaiah George all tied with 1, which is 1 more than Adam Pelech and 1 more than Matt Martin, and also 1 more than Grant Hutton.
Wow.
So congrats to Hudson for 40 games for Hudson Fasching. 41 this season, I should say, bringing his Islander total to 135 games.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
135 games, and 42 games this season, and he finally outscored his team's goalie. Great job, guy. Yeah. Okay, we need to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to look ahead to the final 2 games of the season, and then talk about some mess going on in Manhattan, which we love to talk about. We're never going to shy away from that, obviously. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible in golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America NA, member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Springfest deals are still in full swing at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 bags of Stay Green Premium Color 2 cubic foot mulch for only $10. And get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, save up to $300 when you buy 2 or more select GE kitchen appliances of $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/16, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
So the Islanders have 2 games this week, the final 2 games of the season. They are at home against the Capitals on the 15th on Tuesday. It's a 7:30 start. I don't know what's going on here. It looks like it's only Monument Network and Islanders.com. Brendan Burke said before. I don't know why it's not on TV. Maybe it has, because it doesn't matter. Neither does their game on Thursday in Columbus, which is their finale for the season. Again, none of this matters. There's a small chance that if the Canadiens continue to collapse and the Blue Jackets pick up some points, maybe that game means something to them. But these games don't mean a hill of beans to the Islanders. And so I don't know if people are even going to care. I would assume that game on the 15th will probably be empty, unlike the last game that they played against the Capitals. Alex Ovechkin has already scored again. He scored tonight. So even if he plays and scores, who cares? This is depressing. Like, what are we even going to say about these two games? Like, who cares? Again, I'm almost kind of rooting for the Blue Jackets to, have to need that game to make the playoffs. And then it'll almost be better if the Islanders lose, and then they can, help the Blue Jackets out. But I know there are going to be people that are like, oh, they got to lose these to better their draft scenario. I don't even care at this point. Like, just get these games over with and move on. So, do you have any plans on watching either of these two games?
No, I mean, maybe I'll tune in for the last one. I hope that they do Matt Martin right with something.
Yeah, he'll play against the Caps for sure.
Yeah, I'm assuming he plays. He plays both, but I just hope that or if maybe he just plays the game against the Caps and like says he's going to retire or something. I just hope that there's something in the works for Martin, because this is just to tell you how weird the season was. Remember, he signed that PTO. He was out of PTO for a while there. They're like, oh, Martin's been signed up. So that's really my only hope, and frankly, the only thing I'll tune in for is if like you catch wind that they're doing something. I assume they will. The Islanders are good about that. So Matt Martin, he'll be if he plays both these games, 987 games. So
he's at 984, so he'll be 986 or 985 if he just plays the one. So
good for him. I mean, what a hell is God.
Guy. He played today, so you're right, 985. Yeah, so it'll be 987. So I forgot about that.
He had 10 goals one season. Matt Martin did. So that's really it. Like, that's all I'm hoping for. And if that Blue Jackets game is win and in game for them, maybe I'll tune in for it. But I'm assuming that the Canadiens will have it wrapped up by then. At this point, I'm just in full kind of hater mode, and we'll talk about him soon. But it's it's really nice that and it's a little bittersweet, I guess. On one end, it's like the Islanders couldn't have made something out of the season that finally goes completely pear-shaped for the Rangers. Like, we can't like laugh from a perch. Like, we're just like, oh yeah, you're down here with us, so get used to it. It's enjoyable to see them down here, but at the same time, I wish we were somewhere else while they were down here.
Seriously.
I'm just kind of getting into hater mode. It'll be nice to just fully focus my attention. I've got enough. I think I have 3 Ottawa Senators jerseys. I got my Patrick. I have a Patrick Lalime jersey, and I have 2 blank Senators jerseys that I bought at like thrift stores and stuff in my year. So I'll be decked out in those. Hopefully, very happy with watching them. As they play the Leafs in round 1. It looks like, and then of course, in a weird way, like that the Hurricanes are gonna fill the void that was left by the Rangers missing the playoffs, because I'll just be rooting like hell against them, because it would be just so funny with all the shit that this team likes to talk and the flowers that get thrown in their direction by everyone else. If the Devils, who everyone is counting out because of the injuries, are able to pull the upset against Carolina in round 1, that would be a really nice thing to have happen, to watch the Hurricanes lose in the first round. Because it would just be nice to tell the smartest people in the room, like, we told you so. Just, you should have maybe got a goalie. But so I'm just like kind of morphing into that, and very excited for I'm ready for the regular season just to come to an end across the board. So
I think we all are. I am left with just one team to hate, and it's the one you just mentioned, the ones that's going to play the Senators probably in round 1. And I don't know, they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now, so it's really It's really bothering me. But at the same time, I think the Senators are aware of that even more acutely than we are. So I think they're going to be ready. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah,
but
I know. We'll have to like do some deep dives into some like Ottawa Senators forums or Reddit or something. I got to get the temperature of the room, how they're feeling and such. But if this is truly the end of the core four era, which it has been 3 years in a row, it would be pretty appropriate for it to come against the Senators. That would be really beautiful.
I agree. This whole thing is set up perfectly to go exactly that way. If you've been following along the NHL for a long time, so we'll have to see. Hopefully, it goes that way. Again, I don't want to get into too much sort of after the season stuff because we got plenty of time to talk about that. But on the 18th, I am expecting some sort of firing. We talked about this before we came on here. I mean, the fact that it's Easter weekend. By the way, we're going to be recording on Monday, our next episode. So that's going to come out on Tuesday. Sunday is obviously Easter Sunday. So we're going to take that day off. Happy Passover, by the way, to everybody today. So we're going to record on Monday. Chances are that will be clear out day. They're probably not going to do it on the Friday or over the course of Easter weekend. So let's assume that it'll be Monday. And then we can talk about that stuff then. But I am hoping that there is some sort of announcement or something on the 18th. I mean, you can't have a power play this bad and still keep your job at any point after the season, I would think. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah.
So I'm going to make a prediction as well. If expecting it to be Monday, my prediction is that Lou Lamoriello doesn't speak at locker room cleanout day.
Oh,
again.
no.
He'll be trying to figure out what happened in Game 6 against the Hurricanes a couple seasons ago, because it still is plaguing this team. Honestly, those issues are still plaguing the team. They couldn't score, they didn't hold the lead, and they didn't handle the situation well.
Yeah.
But I think that locker room cleanout day is going to be a lot of there'll be like most of the guys on the party line. Maybe says something a little kooky, and then that'll be that, and we'll hear from Lou again around the draft. But I don't know. I think if there was big change coming, we'll save it for next season. Yeah.
I don't want to get into it, but I'm just saying that Friday, maybe something happens, probably doesn't, like you said, but we'll have to see. But, at the end of the day, this is the last week of this group, probably. So, take a good look. As much as it pains us and as much as tired and as sick of these guys as we are, maybe it's good to just kind of get one final look at them. And I'm telling you right now, the one thing I would like to see, if Matt Martin can get a goal in that final home game, that would actually be a lot of fun. I think the place would kind of go unglued for him. Okay. Our final bit, we've been teasing it all episode here. Mike mentioned before, the one silver lining to the Islanders getting eliminated this weekend is that the Rangers got eliminated too. They got pumped by Carolina 7-2, I believe, on Friday or Saturday. And so their season is over. For all of the things that have gone wrong with the Islanders this year, the one thing, at least, that you can say about them is that they were not in open revolt against their general manager and coach, which is what's been going on with the Rangers. And you would think that, with the season winding down and maybe there'd be some kind of self-reflection about this. No, there's still more going on. There's still more complaints and more, issues seemingly behind the scenes. And the latest one concerns a guy that we all know very well. Calvin DeHaan was traded to the Rangers on March 1st. Raise your hand if you completely forgot about this. He was a part of the Jimmy Vesey deal. What the hell's his name? The guy's always hurt. Ryan Lindgren got traded to Colorado. Calvin DeHaan comes back to New York. Ends up playing 3 games for the Rangers, and they went 2-0-1 in those games. And he thought he was, they were playing okay. He was playing okay, but he ends up being a scratch a lot. So he's walking out to warm-ups today, and he says something that gets caught by a couple of reporters saying, complaining about how the way I've been treated here, it's fucked up, or something like that. And when reporters asked if he wanted to speak after the skate, he answered yes, and that he would be very transparent. Well, he comes off the ice and he decides that he wanted to wait until the end of the season. Problem is, this is 2025 and it doesn't work that way. And that quote, that the way he's been treated and it's fucked up, has already gotten out into the world while he's been skating around. And so he comes off the ice and he takes to his own social media. We know from his time with the Islanders that he likes to go on Twitter and stuff like that. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of a long post, but I'll put a link to it at the site. And he basically just says he was hoping that I would have to be able to express myself in a scrum setting versus a quote that I was going onto the ice and having it on the internet 30 seconds later. I said what I said because I'm frustrated, and any competitor who says that they would be happy in the position would be lying to you. After playing 3 games with the team and going 2-1, I thought maybe I would have gotten an opportunity to jump back into the lineup and help win some games. Basically, he says, I'm not trying to be the villain or gain attention or throw shade on the organization. I would have preferred a scrum setting to chat about my time with the Rangers how it's gone. As a player, you have to respect the lineup decisions, whether you like them or not. It's just been frustrating not being able to compete and do what I love. I hope everyone understands. So basically what he's saying is, don't take my words as I'm walking out to the skate around and just put them out into the internet. So now everybody's got a talking point. Let me make myself clear in a scrum setting in front of everybody. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. And this follows the pattern of the Rangers this year, going back to the trading of Barclay Goodrow when he wouldn't waive his no trade clause, trading him to San Jose, or waiving him, having it picked up by San Jose, which is where they were going to trade him anyway. The trading of Jacob Trouba after running him out of town, and Rangers fans even getting on his wife's case for, basically not wanting to waive his no trade clause. And they finally got him to waive, and they moved him to Anaheim. I did not know that Zach Jones had complained this year about being a scratch and maybe being sent back down to Hartford. I did not know that. I found that out, this whole thing. This DeHaan situation now, they bring in noted calm locker room presence, JT Miller. That didn't really have any help. Guys have been pouting all year. Chris Kreider had a down year. People are complaining. Things are not really running smoothly over there on 34th Street. And I, for one, am enjoying the hell out of it. And I hope it continues. I hope the tire fire continues to rage at Madison Square Garden. And I hate that Calvin DeHaan is caught up in here, but again, I had completely forgotten he was part of the Rangers. And so this is kind of out of left field. But this is wild. You texted me before in our group chat. You just said Carp Lad, which of course was his nickname here. And I was like, what did he do? And then found out about this whole thing. So it's been a fun afternoon, regardless of whatever the Islanders did in New Jersey today. So I don't know. What do you make of this whole thing? I mean, he's got a point. Like, he has a point. He has a point that, he's frustrated getting scratched, and he's frustrated now that his, maybe, he got caught kind of on a bit of a hot mic or, with reporters around, and now it's like a whole thing, and he didn't want it to be that way.
It's Calvin DeHaan of all people. So
right.
I would, Ranger fans don't have the same kind of sense of humor about their team as Islander fans do. So
absolutely
I don't think,
not. They have no sense of humor about their team.
Weird Rangers as a podcast wouldn't be it would turn into like a who Ranger we hate the most.
Right.
But if there was one, it would be Calvin DeHaan. Congratulations on winning the Weird Ranger award. But yes, some good double agent stuff here from DeHaan. 100%. And I talk a lot about how like predictions and getting caught up in making them is just so useless, right? Because you just never know how a season's going to go. And
right.
So if before the season you were to say, look, the Rangers are going to be an absolute disaster, despite starting the season nearly perfectly through the first 2 months, the Rangers are going to be a disaster, and it's going to be Calvin DeHaan who's going to be like the real kind of sticking point, that the straw that breaks the camel's back here is going to be that Calvin DeHaan says something after 3 games played with the Rangers. You'd get locked up for saying something like that. But that's where we're at, and it's great because we were on this like in June when the Rangers pulled that stuff with Barclay Goodrow. We're like this right. team, only this team would look a unbelievably fortunate run to the President's Trophy and then the Eastern Conference Final where not a thing went wrong until the hockey gods were like, look, you're in the Eastern Conference Final, like an Angels in the outfield, and they say, oh, we don't get involved in the playoffs. Like we got you here, but that's where we draw the line. And they're like, we got you the Eastern Conference Final. Now it's up to you guys. We've done this for you guys before, and you couldn't come up with the win. So just do your best. And that only they would look upon that blessed, fortunate run and be like, we deserved better. Gotta get Barclay Goodrow off this team. Gotta get our captain off this team. Gotta dox his wife at work. And then get praised for it.
Right.
This is the type of ruthlessness that the team needs.
Yeah.
To beat the Panthers. If this team's going to beat, how many times did we hear that over the summer? If the Rangers are going to beat the Panthers, this is what they need. They need to be cutthroat. They need to do this.
Right. Look at what Vegas does. Look at what Florida does. Yeah.
The downside to doing that, to doing some demented version of what those teams do, is that it could piss off a lot of people that work for you, and that seems to be what has happened here, including one who's worked for you for a month and 2 weeks and has played a total of 3 games for you, and was able to articulate exactly what we were trying to say in 3 sentences to the people that it needed to be articulated to, and now it's a thing. And it's been a lot of fun to watch this season snowball for them in a way that is complete. I was talking about the Islanders, like, this is their fault. This is all your fault for the way this is going, as bad as the breaks have been. It's even more so for the Rangers. Like, this was a completely unforced error out of ownership and the front office and everything, that they're in the spot. All they had to do was just run it back. If the Rangers just simply left everything alone in the offseason and came back and whatever, tinkered to make sure they were under the cap, we'd be sitting here being like, oh, fuck, man, the Rangers are going to beat the Hurricanes again in the playoffs. This sucks, and we're going to have to deal with it. But instead, they had to, look a gift horse in the mouth, the giftest horse in the mouth. and now this is what they're dealing with. So, yeah, it's nice to see them finally reap what they sow for the first time in years and years and years and years. And I always think about how when the Rangers are doing their thing, going on their annual run to the Eastern Conference Final, thanks to like goals off of shins and goalies getting run, and they're playing like Akira Schmid and Casey DeSmith and Louis Domingue. And I always think, is there a part of me that wants the Rangers to make the playoffs, so at least I'm invested, and I have something to do at night? And the answer is no. Like, this is so much better. I now that I'm on this side of it, I'm thinking about waking up in the morning after the Rangers won that game 3 against the Panthers last year, in which they were outshot by like 30. And Barclay Goodrow, of all people, scored I think he scored twice in that game, including the game winner. Yeah, I woke up the next morning miserable because the Rangers were 6 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup and completely ruining the sport for me. So it's really nice to know that they are now 98 wins away, or whatever it would be, 98 games away. Because at least I can go to bed at night a little bit relieved. And it's just, for the first time in a long time, it's a one front war for Islander fans in the postseason. It's just, I guess if you consider Carolina too, but for the most part, it's just get the Leafs out and that's it. And that'll be a lot easier to deal with than what we've had to deal with in the past 3 or 4 playoffs.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it's nice to see this come around and people being like, dude, what is going on over there? Like, just like, how is it? Again, all of this had happened. I did not realize Zach Jones was on this list too. And he had apparently complained publicly as well. And the Trouba thing, we all know, it happened. The trade happened back in November or something. Yeah. So we all kind of forgot about it, but man, that was ugly. Like, this is your captain, the guy who, signed a big deal to come play here, was
to only play here.
Yeah, to only play here because his wife was, a resident here and she's a doctor. And, he it wasn't long ago that this is the perfect player for this team because he's tough and he, lays borderline hits on people all the time. And now you're just like running him out on a rail for what? Like, I guess that he sucks now, which is number one, but like, it's so funny that like, here we are talking about, we can't wait for this Islanders era to end. And maybe some of these guys are playing their last games with this team. And on one hand, we're happy that we can move on, but on the other hand, it's going to suck to see, Adam Pelech or Ryan Pulock, one of these guys, play for somebody else maybe. But like, we're not running them out on a rail. We're going to sit back and be like, this really sucks. Like, Brock Nelson got traded and we were all sad about it. Like, this is a terrible season, but it's sad to see this guy go. And meanwhile, these guys couldn't wait to throw Jacob Trouba overboard because, you know, he wasn't pulling his weight. And it's like, dude, really? Seriously? And to dox his wife, and it got really bad for a while there. But then, you know, we forgot about it. They kind of pulled themselves together a little bit, and then they started falling apart again. Then they got JT Miller, and you think, oh, great. Now, and that trade, by the way, I'm glad I remember this. I almost forgot about it. When do you think we start hearing about how the JT Miller Philip Hedl trade was a lose-lose for both the Canucks and the Rangers? Like, the Rangers are missing the playoffs. The Canucks are missing the playoffs. Hedl, God bless him. I hope he lives a long and healthy life. But, like, this dude is never going to be healthy. He's never going to be fully healthy. And Miller, I mean, clearly is not, you know, he might like playing here, but I mean, really, we're going to, how long will we give this guy before he wants out of here too? Like, it's just funny.
Or the other end. How long until they want him out of here?
Yeah.
Right. It's that's the main, I think that's the easiest way to, if, you know, you meet someone from Calgary and they're like, oh, you're a hockey fan. What's the rivalry like? Is it like Battle of Alberta with the Oilers and us? Right. And be like, yeah, well, I guess the main point of difference between Islander fans and Ranger fans is exactly what you just said, which is Islander fans, like, I'm going to be, you know, up at night thinking, man, I can't believe the Islanders might have to say goodbye to Pierre Engvall and buy him out. Like, that'll be sad. I'll miss him. I'll miss, I still miss Val Filppula. Like, I miss these guys. Miss Leo Komarov. Whereas Ranger fans are trying to drive Chris Kreider out of town. And
that's right.
And like, and they'll be like, I'm so done with Kreider. I'm so done with Zibanejad. Okay, maybe they're not playing well, which fine. You can be upset that they're not playing well, but these guys have just brought you to 2 Eastern Conference Finals in 4 years. They won you a President's Trophy. Kreider is 2
President's Trophies.
Yeah. Kreider's the all-time leader in, I think, points in the playoffs for this team, and they're all unforgivable season from Kreider. I would forgive him. Guy. I went to 2 Eastern Conference Finals with Anders Lee, and he had a season like that. I'd forgive him. He's my captain. You know, Jacob Trouba, as poor as he's been and as big as his contract is, he's the captain of a couple teams that went to Eastern Conference Finals, won a President's Trophy. It's okay. Like, I'll sit out doxing his family, and that's that's the difference between the fan bases. Is the Islanders, I would pick those guys up from the airport. Ranger fans would much rather drive them. You know, I'll sit in traffic and be like, I gotta go get Leo Komarov from the airport. He wants to play for the Islanders again. Ranger fans like, I'm driving Chris Kreider to the airport. He's out of here.
Yeah, I know, seriously. And now I guess Calvin DeHaan is the next one on the list. So, but again, I don't
miss that guy. Miss him.
Yeah, no, seriously, I would take Calvin DeHaan. Well, I guess the Islanders have 1,000 defensemen, so I probably shouldn't say that. But like, if Calvin DeHaan signed as like a 7th defenseman next year for the Islanders, I don't know if I'd be mad about it. Like,
especially after this was
right.
I mean, 5-year deal. Go right ahead.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You get the Ranger
he might have
hater.
He might have had the best play of any player of the season from the Islanders. Right. Like, this is great stuff.
I know. But yeah, so we'll just have to see. But you know, the worst part of this is going to be that, like, when the free agency things pop up and who's going to go where, the Rangers are still going to be considered a premier destination. Well, you could play in New York. Actually, this is another 32 Thoughts thing. Oh, you get to play in New York. Isn't that great? And it's like, yeah, but you might be leaving New York at a time when, and in a way that you did not expect to leave New York, which is now becoming a thing here in New York. So we'll see. Chris Drury probably is not getting fired anywhere. I don't think he's changing his way anymore. And of course, as long as they've got Igor Shesterkin, the Rangers are, you know, another couple of goals away from an Eastern Conference Final or a President's Trophy, something like that. So it's a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, a pattern has formed that is very clear.
It's a reminder to like the early 2000s, like, to me. Like, it's that the Rangers were just like a very weird throw money at big names kind of group. And as soon as they kind of deviated from that plan, they had all sorts of success, even though the team wasn't on a roster that good. It was because they all they had to do was not do stupid stuff, and that was enough for the Rangers to make hay off of their bounces and get Henrik Lundqvist in the 7th round, and that was that, right? So hopefully we're at the beginning stages of another 4 or 5 year stretch where they do stuff like this, and the JT Miller trade feels like it was the first step or another step in the right direction there. Like, go get a expensive older guy and
who everybody hates after a while.
Right. Yeah. This is perfect. It's Bobby Holik stuff. And So yeah, go keep going that way. Go splash some cash at the free agents day. And now that I said that, they'll sign a terrible deal and it'll just work out perfectly for them.
Oh yeah. I mean that's always around the corner, but at the same time, I mean, we all kind of know what's really going on there. So keep your eyes on this. We'll see where this goes with Calvin DeHaan, but I think he knows, and maybe he's saying these things knowing that Islanders fans are still behind him after all these years. So we'll see what happens. Also, the good news is that the Islanders and Rangers don't have any more games this year. So, because if he was in the lineup, he's definitely going to score against the Islanders.
You know what? It's nice that they swept us this season, which would have been really embarrassing had they had a good season. But now it's just like a footnote in 2 miserable seasons for both teams. And honestly, like if you had told me that this is how the seasons were going to end, but Calvin DeHaan would then have this bombastic quote while he was playing for the Rangers at the end of it, be like, would you trade these 4 embarrassing losses for that quote? I'd be like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here. It was a long one, but we had a lot of games to get to and a lot to say. And we'll be back, like I said, next Monday to talk about the last couple of games. Like we said, most likely clean out day is going to be on Monday. Although they could do it over the weekend, I suppose. Who knows? But we'll be there to talk about what's said there, if anything. And then we're going to, have a couple episodes after that. Eventually, we will go into alternating mode as we have done throughout the playoffs. But obviously, if anything pops up newsworthy, we can get on and talk about it. So this week over at the Patreon, also, I have a new 10-game thoughts going up on Tuesday. I was going to push it to the end, but then it would be 12-game thoughts, and I don't want to do that. So it'll be 10-game thoughts on Tuesday. And then on the 18th, for everybody, is a Weird Islanders, the podcast that came out great. It's with a guy who is currently playing, at least this week he's playing, although his team is not going to the playoffs, that you may not remember being an Islander. And in fact, our guest, who is a podcaster himself, shared with his friends on his podcast that he was going to be talking about this guy in the island, playing for the Islanders. And they were like, he never played for the Islanders. And it's like, apparently he did, just at a training camp. So there's your clue right now. But the episode's great. So check it out. That's on Friday. Also, speaking of the Patreon, last week I put out, we did our mailbag episode. It was 2 parts again, because we had a lot of great questions. And I put out a little free sample for everybody that was a couple of questions about sort of the secret origin of Islanders anxiety. I thought I had told it before on an episode, but I hadn't. So it was, I think people really appreciated that. And we also had another behind the scenes question too. So if you haven't listened to that, please do. It came out to about 25 minutes or so, and that's free for everybody. And of course, always sign up at the Patreon, patreon.com/Islanders anxiety for a lot more. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, audible.com, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Check out their record, God Looks Out for Fools. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety Podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. We have talked a lot, but do you have any final thoughts about the final 2 games of this season, the last 4 games that they played, 3 of which were pretty embarrassing, or I don't know, anything else that we've covered here? Maybe Calvin DeHaan. Maybe if they had Calvin DeHaan, they wouldn't be in this situation this year.
It's right. We just were talking about all the things that could have changed and got them the requisite points to make the playoffs, and having Calvin DeHaan would have been helpful. But I guess we've had him all along. Yeah, if this is the type of stuff he's going to say after getting traded to the Rangers. When he first was traded, I was very scared. I was like, great, this is perfect. Like Calvin DeHaan's going to do something crazy and get the Rangers into the Stanley Cup or something. But now I realize he was here as a double agent. So very thankful to him and what he did today. I feel like we're not quite done with that. There's still going to be some meat on that bone. I'm very excited for his locker room cleanout day. Less excited for a lot of Islanders. Although I'm excited to hear Hudson Fasching tell us that he was confused about what his role was once again. Just another great thing that's come out of cleanout day before. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the thing I'm looking forward to the most is that final horn on Thursday night, and the Islanders just I'll miss them as soon as, the hubbub ends around the draft and free agency and you get to the middle of July and you're like, God, what I'd give to watch the Islanders score a goal right now. But
Right.
it'll be nice to be without them for the time between now and then.
For sure. I'm looking forward to the inevitable watching of a playoff game and then being like, this is not what I watched this year.
Right.
Like this is not the sport I've been watching.
Yeah.
I don't know what my guys are doing, but this is fun.
I love that. That's always the funniest thing too, is when the Islanders are in the playoffs and you watch them like try to just push a rock up a hill for 60 minutes plus an overtime against the Hurricanes and have a high stick off of Scott Mayfield's mush and end up being like the deciding play in a game. And then TNT's like, all right, and now we're over to John Forsland in, as he calls, Stars Avalanche, and
yeah,
they drop the puck, and it's like all the guys, they all morph into horses, and they're like there's wearing jetpacks, and there's like the lights are dimmed, and there's like a laser show going on. You're like, what is going? This is the same league. Yeah, that is always fun.
It's like going from watching a ViewMaster to watching like a 4K flat screen 60-inch TV. You know. It's just like, what are we doing here? But again, we'll have a lot of time to talk about that next week and then the subsequent weeks as well. So thank you for listening. We went a little long here, but I think it was worth it. We had a lot to cover. We'll be back next week, next Monday. So again, happy Easter to everybody. Happy Passover this week. And we will talk to you again soon. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.